Well, I guess this thing just has to shake when I turn it that way to try to get a better video. But I guess I want to say that it's a little weird for me. I've been saying it for a while now, but I just, for so long, really didn't feel afraid. I felt so comfortable feeling like I'm just going to kick cancer's ass. Like, that's all that's going to happen. I mean, I really felt that for a long time. And I mean only that, because I do feel that a bit, but also just what's crept in is fear. Really, part of it is I think that just a lot of time has passed, and right now what I'm dealing with is I'm dealing with the pain in my spine and the pain in my hip. And just like, ironically, two people that I know that started out with breast cancer, both of them ended up with it spreading to the spine, and one of them also had it spread to their hip. And I guess it's just the irony of it in some way, but it just has me afraid. That, along with that I haven't done anything to suppress estrogen, although, like, one of the reasons that I decided not to do the tamoxifen months ago was because my medical oncologist tested the luteinizing hormone and the estradiol and whatever the FSH is. I don't know what that stands for. But he tested me, and we concurred that the estradiol was low, and that's the estrogen, as best I can tell, although he's not that thorough. So he basically, like, if I don't have a problem with something or want something, he doesn't really initiate much. Like, if I initiate, he's there. But if I'm not complaining about something or, like, asking for something, he's not like, hey, what about this? What about that? So the fact that, like, he said the estradiol was low and, like, that was good enough is good enough for him. So I can't really use him as, like, my litmus test for what's okay and what's not okay. But I have an itch in my eye. So what am I saying about that? Yeah, so, and then I think I said this last video, but, like, the Stanford medical oncologist said you can't just take the estradiol number and those three, like the luteinizing hormone and the FSH, you can't take them in a 1 month period. You have to look at the number over 3 months, because various things could be happening. So, like, we just looked at it for 1 month. So according to her, that's not really appropriate. That's not the way to do it. So, okay, so that I haven't really done much to suppress the estrogen. I mean, I did the, Herceptin and Perjeta, which are for the HER2. And I didn't know that me doing chemo wasn't, like, addressing the entire cancer. I mean, it was addressing the tumor. No, I think that it's only addresses the HER2 piece of the tumor, which, that's crazy. I gotta find that out. That doesn't really make sense to me. If I had a tumor that was HER2 positive and estrogen positive, why wouldn't the chemo that I did, combat those two things? Why would it only combat the HER2? So it's got to be the taxotere and carboplatin are also for estrogen. Oh man, I'm sweating. I know it really messes up the video when I have the air on, but oh shit, it's hot. 86 degrees where I live. So, okay, and then combined with the fact that my daughter is, like, suddenly becoming so anxious, she's just having these, like, wild responses. I mean, she's also just, she's a tween, that's a hard age. It's like a really awkward, uncomfortable age. A body is developing, and all these social kinds of expectations and pressures have changed, and it's most people I know had a really hard time at that point, or at least an awkward time. So she's dealing with that, and then we think that she's also anxious about me, and a lot of it seems to be kind of subconscious to her, but it's manifesting with these anxiety symptoms. And why that worries me is that I'm like, God, we're so close, and we have this kind of psychic connection, that please don't let her be intuiting something on a really deep level, like, mom's not going to be okay. So anyway, I'm not letting the fear get the best of me, but it's also just like, I don't don't really know myself as that fearful of a person. I mean, not to say that things don't come up, but I don't really navigate the world from a place of fear, and I usually feel pretty confident, but dealing with cancer and then dealing with this ITP has really changed that for me in a lot of ways. I feel very humbled by life, which is a good thing. It's good to get humbled. I think getting knocked down by life is humbling. You know, if you're just winning and having successes, it's easy to feel really confident all the time. And I don't know who could get to 45 and not have some sort of disappointment, failure, and dealing with life, because like people die, jobs get lost, relationships end. I mean, this just happens to everybody by a certain age. So but anyway, so yeah, I have the PET CT was approved, thank God, by my insurance company, because the other thing that's like kind of crazy that's happening is that I spent a while on the phone with the pharmacy, which was very annoying, but I'm not going to go into that too much. But they said that my prescription, the Prolacta, I keep forgetting, I think it's Promacta, would be coming, I'm sweating. Let's see if I can do this without, I don't know, it's going to be loud, would be coming today. And I'm like, okay, great. And then meanwhile, I got 3 letters, which, what a waste of paper. But anyway, I got 3 like 15-page letters, the same exact letter in the mail the same day from the insurance company saying that they were denying the Promacta and I could appeal it. So I'm like, okay, well, what's happening? You know, is it going to show up today? Today's Tuesday, and today's the day they said it would arrive, the pharmacy anyway. So somehow there's some wires crossed. I don't know if they denied it, then approved it, or approved it, then denied it, or there's just some crossed wires going on. I'm going to navigate the road. So it's a little hard to tell what's happening, and I'm also a little bit ambivalent about taking it because, I mean, I've said this, I really don't want to throw tons of pharmaceuticals in my body, and I'm really afraid of compromising my liver. So I guess, there are tests I could do to look at the liver markers and see what they are, but I don't want, metastasized breast cancer to end up in my liver, because I'm just sitting there like pounding my liver. And so I probably just need to understand things a little bit better. And I go back down to the medical oncologist at Stanford, actually not till November, but in September, I go on the 9th to Stanford to meet the plastic surgeon, and I'm supposed to get my blood taken again then, and that'll be my 3rd time of getting the estrogen tested, but that's just solely to see if I'm pre or postmenopausal, and then she wants me to take whichever it is, and that's it's so hard. It's just so hard navigating all this crap. I mean, at a certain point, it's just like, I just want to be done, and I can't. Having that attitude doesn't help at all, because I'm not done, and I think not being where we are is like the surest way to suffering. So I have to really just keep putting one foot in front of the other and doing whatever the next thing in front of me is. But and I'm really glad I got the PET CT approved. Hopefully I don't now get a letter in the mail saying it's denied. But that's going to be in Sacramento, and I don't know. They haven't called me, but they probably will this week. If I don't hear from them by Thursday or Friday, I'll call them to schedule it. But I'm going to have somebody come with me to that one for sure. And they're going to use contrast, which, I have to do that for them to be able to see what's happening. And I feel okay about that. I mean, I did just get that angiogram chest CT, and they did use contrast for that. And I feel like that was a little bit of a waste, but I still need to get all my medical documents in order. That feels like a real... Somebody asked me, like, why? What will that do for you? And I think why waste your time doing that? And it's a good question, but I think it'll help me feel like I'm just back in control. I think I said this last video, but I just feel like I've lost control a little bit, to the degree that I don't really remember, like, which scans I had and when, and that feels really important. Feels like I need to be keeping better track. So, I just really felt like sharing the piece about feeling fear and not giving into it. I mean, allowing it to be there. I'm not going to fight it and pretend, but I also just acknowledge it and acknowledge that it's there, because I know that if anyone listens to this, like I listen to other people, it makes me and it makes us, I think, feel more human when we're like, okay, well, somebody else feels that too, you know, and it's understandable. Like I told my daughter, it's understandable that you'd be worried about mom. She's going to be 11. It's understandable that you would have like subconscious fears, you know. I would say it a different way to her so she could understand it easily. But, you know, it's important. It's important because when we don't know, we think that we're like alone, and the moment that we talk to somebody else, we're like, there's such a relief. I mean, tell me if this isn't true. When you don't know something and they're like, when you think you're alone, basically, I don't think there's anything that any human could experience that another human hasn't experienced. You know, there's really no unique circumstances. It feels like it because we're the center of our own universe, so we think that everything is so significant and the only time it's ever happened and so profound, and in a way it is. I mean, it is to us, but if you look at it in the scheme of the world and next to every other billions and billions of humans, like, we are not having a, like, you know, unique phenomena experience like everyone has. So it's like the moment somebody validates our experience because they've had it as well, it's like, oh, I feel so much better. I feel so much more okay and sane and grounded and like that. So that's where I am. Thank you, as always, for being there. Right now, I'm on my way. I'm driving to Sacramento because I'm hand delivering this dissolution. I don't remember what it's called. Dissolution of a business entity, because I felt so duped by 1-800-ACCOUNTANT, I must say. I didn't know what I needed, and I feel like they completely coerced me into setting up an LLC, and I'm like, I'm not an LLC. That's not what I'm trying to do. All I'm trying to do is make sure that I'm handling taxes correctly, because I'm selling some things online, but I'm not putting a lot into it because I really want to stay healthy. And it was starting to get a little unhealthy. Like, I was working a lot, you know, it was keeping me awake at night, and it was too much. So I just backed off, which means the sales backed off, which is completely fine. And so anyway, I'm not selling a lot. I'm just barely doing a little bit here and there. And they had me like, you're an LLC. And I'm like, I'm not an LLC. I'm just doing some self-employed stuff, or at least I'm attempting to do it. So I'm going all the way to Sacramento so I can hand deliver this dissolution certificate of the LLC, because I don't want the responsibility of that, because I'm really not trying to play at that level right now. So, all right, that's it. Blah, blah, blah. Oh dear, to turn everything down so you can hear me. Yeah, I was just thinking about somebody who I was about to listen to YouTube, and the video was like, what stage 4 cancer? And I remember this person as being optimistic and inspiring and like that, which is great. And then it just reminds me, I mean, I think it's really important to be optimistic and inspiring, and it's also really important to be realistic. And I think realistic gets lost, gets sort of subverted, or, you know, pushed aside because people want to be optimistic. And yeah, I don't know. I'd rather be real than optimistic and kind of faking it. I do believe in fake it till you make it in some regards. I think that it's useful to be that way, but it's also really dumb, in my opinion, to not deal with reality. And I guess that's what, you know, to each their own, but I guess that's sort of the concern I have, or something about people who are going through cancer. And I guess it depends what stage you are, but I just don't know why anybody would take an alternative approach entirely. It depends on what kind of cancer you have, I think, and what stage you are. But for the most part, I'm pretty sure cancer is one of the, quote, worst things that can happen to you in your life, because it's always the thing that people say, like, well, at least it's not cancer. You know, that's kind of like the worst case scenario that people refer to, which is interesting. But yeah, I'm just thinking about that, how a lot of times I think we can have really big imaginations, like, if I just think positive, it's all going to go away. And yeah, I don't really look at life that way. I aim to look at life more like 2 feet on the ground. Like, what can I actually do? Let me deal with the situation with as much awareness and as much intelligence and in as much action as I can, because if I sit around and say, well, it's all in God's hands, and I do nothing, I mean, I don't think God wants that. That doesn't make any sense to me. what makes sense to me is that you do your best and you give your most. You give all you have to give, and then you don't get attached to the results. Like, whatever the results are, it's like, okay, well, maybe it's out of my control. I did my best. I know I did my best. And ultimately, I do think everything is in God's hands. But I don't think that's an excuse to, like, kick back on your laurels and be like, well, there's nothing for me to do. I see people do that in spirituality, and I think I've done that before as well, where it's like, okay, well, I don't need to make any choices. I don't need to do any action. I can just, like, sit back and just say, like, it's all in God's hands. And it's really a way of just being irresponsible and a way of having a, like, fantastic imagination, living in fantasy land. So yeah, I don't know, it breaks my heart. This video I was just seeing as I was scrolling through videos to watch something or to listen to something, really, as I'm driving, and I saw, like, what stage 4 cancer, and it made me think, like, okay, well, it's good to be optimistic, and it's also good to be realistic, and I think you kind of need to do equal parts of both, and probably not one or the other. So that's my 4 cents on that topic. This is so amusing, I have to laugh. Okay, so I'm in Sacramento. I don't really know my way around here at all, but I found, first of all, I pulled into a parking garage that had no public parking, so I needed to quickly get out of there. Now I found one. It said public parking. It said cash only, gate closes at 7, and public parkers can only park on the roof, and their elevator doesn't work. So right now I'm on the 6th floor. I just keep going up and up and up. And I don't know why, I just find it so amusing. I'm like, can you make any more restrictions? And then I'm like 4 blocks from where I need to be, which isn't so bad, but I find this so amusing. I don't know, I just laugh. I guess the state of California is really in an economic mess. How can a parking garage only take cash only? I mean, who knows, maybe it's a sign of the economic collapse that's about to happen. Oh my God, I'm going up 7 stories. It's so funny. If I were disabled, physically disabled, how would I get down? They should have a sign that says, if you're physically disabled, you can't park here, because oh shoot, I don't know. I just find this kind of stuff so amusing sometimes. Well, I made it to the roof. Yay, I can park. I just saw another sign that said no bills over 20. Oh my God, that's so funny. So if you have a 50 and you're in a wheelchair, you're just totally screwed. You couldn't even park here. You couldn't go to the Secretary of State office, because that's where I'm headed. I think one of the things that contributes to the anxiety that I'm feeling is that every single day, well, every single weekday, I'm dealing with either an appointment or multiple phone calls about my health. Like, managing my health. And I don't even mean managing my actual health. I mean dealing with the administrative load of managing my health has become, like, it's a part-time job. I mean, I'm constantly dealing with it, and I think that it's exhausting. I just find it really difficult. And now, not to mention, the nurse assistant of the medical oncologist called me, and I missed her call twice, which is my lameness because my phone ringer is never on. But she said she had something to tell me about the paperwork, and hopefully it's not a big deal, but that's kind of like when someone's like, they tell you we need to talk, and that's all you get, and you're like, should I be worried? So I guess we'll talk tomorrow. I just missed her call by a minute and called her back, and I didn't get her. So yeah, it's just a lot. It's a lot to deal with constantly on the phone or constantly at an appointment.